Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. Iraqi Prime Minister al-Maliki has accused Syria of an attempt to reimpose the Baathists on Iraq again. His coalition blasted Syria for allowing the Baath party to convene a resistance summit in Damascus. The irony is that al-Maliki himself spent 2 decades in Syria plotting the downfall of Saddam's regime. But Syria had repeatedly refused to extradite him to Iraq, despite a wave of bombing campaigns carried out by the Da'wah party in the 80s, killing many Iraqi civilians. So what lies behind Maliki's condemnation of Syria? Is he exporting his troubles across the border? Or is it a reflection of his fear that his base is not as solid as he proclaims?
Iraq's Prime Minister Nuri al-Maliki has accused Damascus of trying to restore the Baathists to power after a public meeting was held for members of the disbanded Iraqi Baath party in the Syrian capital. The Baath party was dismantled in Iraq following the 2003 US-led invasion, but some members of Saddam's former regime remain at large. Several senior Iraqi Baath officials fled to neighboring Syria after Saddam's downfall. Syria is itself ruled by a rival wing of the Baath party, an Arab nationalist movement. After 20 years of estrangement, Iraq and Syria had restored diplomatic ties in 2006. But in August last year, those ties were cut when al-Maliki blamed Syria for sheltering Iraqi fugitives, believed to have masterminded bomb attacks in Baghdad. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad rejected harboring those behind the attacks and described Iraq's accusations as immoral.
President Assad is making decisions that could mean war or peace for the region.
The latest acrimony between Baghdad and Damascus comes amid the US decision to renew economic sanctions against Syria for another year, saying it supported terrorist groups and that it continues to pose a threat to US security and foreign policy.
To discuss the current Iraqi-Syrian tension, I am joined from Damascus by Thabit Salim, a Syrian journalist, and from Baghdad by Saad al-Mutalibi, a political advisor to the Iraqi Ministry of National Dialogue. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. Saad al-Mutalibi, what is the evidence that Syria is really plotting to reimpose the Baathists back on Iraq? What is the evidence?
First of all, I would like to make an objection on the introduction when you said that the Da'wah party was responsible for killing Iraqi civilians. That is unfounded, untrue, and historically incorrect. Secondly, nobody is accusing the Syrian government. Actually, we have at highest regards for President Bashar al-Assad, who proved to be a brother to the Iraqi nation and proved to be an ally for Iraq. So we have no issues with the Syrian government or the Syrian authorities. Actually, as I said, we hold them with the highest respect and regards. We do have, this is a very complex picture where there is multiple international agendas interacting and crossing over each other within the wider Middle Eastern conflict. So it is very hard to separate one issue from another. But if we manage to slightly pull out the Iraqi conflict, if we can call it that, from the Syrian point of view, we find that President Bashar al-Assad was very helpful and very gracious in calling for a reconciliation in Iraq and calling for a continuous dialogue with his care and attention that that Iraq should include all its citizens or representatives of the citizens within the government. Now, we have no objection to that at all, as long as these political representatives work on a political agenda and not using violence. As you know, violence and terrorism is a destructive method and not a constructive one. So it is important to differentiate between our help and support and cooperation with the Syrian government and from some quarters that back up a violent organization that is causing Iraq a great deal of blood and casualties.
Well, before I go to Thabit Salim, let me just go back to the first point that you objected to, and this is not the bone of contention of this program, the evidence for al-Dawah party engaging in bombing campaigns has been amply established, not only in Iraq, but also in Kuwait. If you remember, the very reason for the start of the Iraq-Iran war was an attempt by a member of the Dawah party to kill Tariq Aziz, at the time the foreign minister, and that was simply because they were linked to Iran. But that is not our subject for the time being, Saad al-Mutalibi. Perhaps we can have another episode one day about the terrorist activities of al-Dawah party. We'll go to it later on. You listen to Thabit Salim.
These are all alleged.
From your perspective, it's alleged. From other point of view, it's clarified and documented. But then again, you are an advisor to the Prime Minister. You have to say that. Otherwise, perhaps you might even lose your position. Thabit Salim, we listened to Saad al-Mutalibi articulating at length, if I may say so. Basically, we did not hear any point of evidence that Syria is plotting. He failed to confirm that Syria is plotting to reimpose the Baath back on Iraq again.
Well, actually, I can't object to what Mr. Mutalibi said from Baghdad. Actually, I didn't really understand if this is a viewpoint, why we are here, or is there any difference in views regarding this accusation. But we don't have to forget, regardless of what Mr. Mutalibi says, that the Iraqi Prime Minister has accused Syria more than once at least, and he said that Syria is harboring terrorists and it has carried out criminal acts inside Iraq, which resulted in the death of many Iraqis. I think until now, this is the basic argument of the Mr. Maliki, but this hides really something else. The other thing is that he is not happy that there are Iraqis who are opposed to his regime and the American occupation of Iraq in Syria. This is the vital thing. I think this is the essence, the very essence of the issue. Just to make it clear, until now, the Iraqi accusations have reached no result, and they have failed in presenting any document or any evidence or clue even that Syria has really contributed or helped any criminal element in doing these acts in Iraq. This is first. Second, I just want to make it clear that Syria cannot say no to any Arab political refugee who comes to Damascus. This is one of the rules.
We shall come to that point later on again, Thabit. Let us give Saad al-Mutalibi another chance to see whether he can come up with the evidence that Syria is plotting to reimpose the Baathists on Iraq again. Khalid al-Asadi, a leading member of al-Maliki coalition state of law, blasted Syria. So now you are one of the advisors. So I don't know which one to believe, you or Khalid al-Asadi or al-Maliki. Are you talking with two different messages?
No, we're just reiterating the facts. First of all, we still believe that the Syrian government is innocent of all accusations. We never in the past accused the Syrian government or Syrian authorities of any wrongdoing. We are accusing a group of Iraqis that are using or misusing. I shall come to that, Saad al-Mutalibi,
and don't tell me that I'm interrupting you. But I want to.
Let me finish. I
want to just put exactly what Khalid al-Asadi said. He said, Syria is attempting to reimpose the Baathists back on Iraq again. Again, Syria is attempting to reimpose the Baathists back on Iraq again. When you have a leading member of the Prime Minister's coalition saying that, that generates a lot of anger and a lot of frustration in Damascus. How can people allowed to say these things without evidence?
First of all, Khalid is a friend of mine, and he was speaking on from his personal behalf.
Excuse me?
He was representing himself in the statement.
Excuse me? Excuse me? Speaking of personal?
He represented...
You are in a very important program, Saad al-Mutalibi, and you know, this is just a joke. This is a glib remark. Don't say that, please. He's speaking personal.
Please let. This is a personal remark by himself, according to his analysis or reading of the political events that took place. What he was referring to was that Syria allowed a group of Baathists and others who claim to be resistance fighters to hold a seminar in Damascus. he was referring to the authorities allowing these groups to hold a conference in Damascus. That is the problem where how he sees it.
In that case, he failed the way to articulate it. Let me ask Thabit Salim. Neighboring countries shouldn't be doing that, Thabit Salim, according from the Iraqis, to let the Baathists, Izzat al-Duri and Muhammad al-Yunus and the communists and the tribal elders, the intellectuals, to hold a plenary summit planning and plotting the downfall of Nuri al-Maliki. You are bad neighbors, Thabit Salim.
Well, Izzat Duri is not in Damascus, as we all know, and there are differences between the Baath party factions, Iraqi Baath party factions. So I think they have no right to say this whatsoever. If we go back to the relations between Syria and the Saddam regime, the late President Saddam, when he was in power, especially in the early 80s, practically there was a war was about to happen, take place between the two countries, when the Syrians accused the Iraqi government then of extending help to the Muslim Brotherhood elements who rebelled against the regime, and especially during the Hama events. So it is really absurd to say that the government in Syria or the regime of President Assad is really interested in bringing Baathists into government in Iraq. The Syrian position vis-à-vis what's happening in Iraq is very clear. Syria against any foreign occupation. Syria does not object to any resistance against the Americans, other occupiers, and the international coalition. Under that, we had to differentiate between the Syrian stand regarding these broad lines and objectives, and this is the cornerstone of the Syrian policy, and these accusations, which really are related to local and really, let's say, low-level tactics of local politics in Iraq. This is how I can describe it. They say that it is an attempt on the side of the Syrian government to interfere in Iraq and bring international intervention, etc., while the name of the foreign forces in Iraq is international coalition. And they claim that and Mr. Maliki objected to the Arab League trying to discuss what's happening in Iraq regarding the government crisis, the election crisis. He called this internalization, and he closes his eyes to the fact that those who occupy his land are called the international coalition.
Well, let's give Saad al-Mutalibi a chance to answer that. But before you do that, let me just add and complete the picture. Nuri al-Maliki lived in Syria, lived in Damascus, and he had a shop in Sayyida Zainab for almost 20 years. He was a leading member.
He didn't have a shop. He didn't have a shop. He had, what I know is that he had a small bag in his hand. He used to stay outside the Sayyida Zainab mosque. Well, this is not, there's nothing wrong with that.
There is no shame in that. There is no shame in that, whether it was a shop or a small bag.
Selling beads and etc. But he really practiced political activity in Damascus.
That is the point I was going to make. That was the point I was going to make, Saad al-Mutalibi. Syria gave him ample room and space to practice what he wanted. He was a leading member of the Da'wah party. He was not like others who went to Iran. He stayed in Syria. He's an Arab nationalist, first and foremost, Nuri al-Maliki. And Syria extended him a great diplomatic coverage. We said Iraq requested his extradition, and the Syrian government refused. Not only him, even the current Iraqi president, Jalal Talbani, was given a political passport by the Syrians to travel all over the world and articulate his position. So can you see now why Syria is doing the same thing to the people who just 7 years ago were in power and now is extending them the same privilege?
Yes, but the major difference between the two circumstances is that Mr. Maliki or Mr. Jalal Talbani, they never used violence and by killing innocent Iraqi civilians. Unfortunately, that group that you are speaking about, which are presently misusing the hospitality of the Syrian people, are using violence, multiple killing, and indiscriminate killing of Sunnis and Shias in Iraq without the real cause or the real purpose of fighting the American invaders or the occupiers. We all agree that the Americans should leave. That's why we have an agreement we signed a very strong agreement for them to withdraw from Iraq. In a few months, the major fighting force will leave Iraq. End of next year, they will all leave Iraq. So we are fighting the Americans, but we are choosing a peaceful way of fighting them.
This region, the region we are discussing about is a violent region. And really, I don't have time to tell you exactly who committed what. Listen, not only the Baathists, not only the Baathists, not only the communists, not only the Kurds, not only the Dawah party, all of them at one stage, they were engaged in terrorist activities and innocent people were killed. So let us not kid each other. Nobody has a clean hand.
There is not one
I would like you to comment on what Mr. Matalibi said, if you allow me, Jassim. The idea is he is trying to market, let's say, what he is saying, that they committed acts against civilians. I think this is not true. He knows very well who was committing those acts. And there was a big question when there was the elections were skeptical. Why did a new wave take place in Iraq of killing of innocent people recently, over the last 15 days? Why is that happening? The Al-Qaeda itself adopted the explosions which happened before, just one day after al-Maliki accused Syria of that. Why don't they take that seriously? Why do they accuse the resistance people, regardless if they are in Damascus or elsewhere? We know very well who is perpetrating these acts of terrorism in Iraq. And again, if we apply that logic, al-Dawah, he says the circumstances are different. You have just said it, and we know that al-Dawah was accused of being a terrorist organization in the 80s. And they killed innocent people in Iraq, according to his logic, to your logic, Jassim. So this is a similar case. It is the same ink. That is, if we take it for granted that these people who abide in Syria.
Let me change the tone just a little bit, Thabit Salim. Saad al-Mutalibi, how do you respond to people who say basically the coalition, the state of law, is exporting its trouble by linking it to Syria, simply because Syria is under the spotlight right now, accused by the Americans of sending arms, very high sophisticated arms, to Hezbollah? So the more the merrier. Let's just heap some more criticism of problems against Syria, and perhaps we will be justified.
You see, I will say this for the third time this show. We are not accusing the Syrian government of any wrongdoing. We are accusing Iraqi citizens who are misusing the hospitality of the Syrian government. Those people, unfortunately, they are killing Iraqi civilians. And how we know that? We know that through our investigation. We have those people in custody. And in custody, they do, through forensic evidence, through confessions, and through investigations, they are confessing that being part of the coalition between Al-Qaeda and the Baath party. So we have a
That's a powerful charge. Let's listen to Thabit Salim.
This is absurd. Al-Qaeda is the enemy of Syria, and Syria is the enemy of Al-Qaeda, and we all know this history. When Syria helped the Americans get hold of many elements in the Gulf, that's when the Al-Qaeda was very active. We know that is one of Al-Qaeda targets is Syria. It's the political system in Syria. We all know this as a secular country. So I think nobody believes what is said. There is no alliance, but there can't be any alliance between Al-Qaeda and the Iraqi Baathists, even if they are working out of Syria, as Mr. Matalibi says. This is absurd. We have to stick to things. And I just want to ask Mr. Matalibi, can you cite me one incident, Mr. Matalibi, my friend, Jassim, can you cite me one incident with a real
Go ahead, Saad. Give him an incident.
Your viewpoint. Just an incident, one incident where these guys were involved in killing civilians in Iraq.
What I'm trying to say is that there is a coalition between Al-Qaeda and the Iraqi Baath party. And we have this evidence. What you are doing now, sir, is trying to analyze politically without solid information. What I am saying is I'm not presenting an analysis. I am presenting a solid information based on solid evidence.
Just tell us, give us one side. Can you recite
you can accept it or leave it. It's up to you.
That's
all
right.
the many of the major bombings that are happening in Baghdad, where innocent people are being killed, there is a very obvious coalition between al-Qaeda and the Iraqi Baath party. Now, we have evidence, solid evidence to prove that. You have a political analysis. You can, as I said, you can accept it or leave it. It's up to you, and it's up to the viewers to accept the facts or not. What I'm trying to say here is we are working very hard on building solid relationship with our Arab neighboring countries. We respect their sovereignty and we respect their way of ruling their countries. We would like them to understand that and to respect and understand the way we want to run our country.
Thank you,
We are not interfering in the...
well, I would like to ask one question. How do you explain that recently, just on the eve of the Americans leaving Iraq, withdrawing from Iraq, that the American authorities have started succeeding in hunting the leaders of al-Qaeda? How come all of a sudden, since 2003, they have failed, and now all of a sudden they have started succeeding in getting hold of these and killing and liquidating these elements?
That's the last question from Thabit Salem. The last answer from Saad before we wrap this show.
No, this is a very natural development of the security services, Iraqi security services. It's a development and progress. We have attained a great deal of experience in fighting terrorism in these last 4 years, and this was the crowning event by finding through Iraqi intelligence only, no American intelligence, Vice President Biden admitted to the fact that no American
it was an American operation. The killing of the two leaders was an American operation.
No, it was not an American. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You do not understand. You were not present. You are not You are not in Iraq.
Thank you,
to understand reality. I'm talking to you from Iraq. I'm talking from Iraq, and I see the yes.
Saad al-Mutalibi.
Yes, don't let me speak again. Yeah, okay. You're interrupting me again. Go on.
Saad al-Mutalibi, Thabit Salem. Gentlemen, thank you for being guests on Inside Iraq.
Thank you. Thank you. My regards to my friend Mutalibi in Baghdad. Thank you.
To watch the show online, please visit our website, aljazeera.net/English. We have reached the end of this show. Join me next week when we take another look inside Iraq. Until then, this is Jassim Azzawi wishing you a fantastic week.